Hi, we're here with our webinar with some of the ARCO projects from AUT. We've got with us this morning Emily, who's now of nursing but was with the paramedicine group. She's going to talk about part of what she's been up to with social media and paramedicine and nursing. We've also got Hugo Goodson here, and he's with us here with our community practice out at Manukau with paramedicine. We've also got Stewart. Hugo, if you want to pan your camera and show Stewart sitting there. There's Stewart. And we've got James there from Unitech, and hopefully Amanda from Public Health will join us, but we'll see if she does or not. So I just want to hand it over to Emily now, and Emily's going to talk about what she's been up to and the SMAC conference, which sounds really, really cool.
Cool. Looks like we've got Amanda online as well. Hi, Amanda. Or is that Catherine?
Ah, hi, Catherine.
That's Catherine.
Hi, Catherine. I'm Emily Marriott Lloyd. I'm one of the clinical educators over at nursing at AUT North Shore.
Wow.
And I originally got involved with the ARCO project in 2014 when I gave Tom Cochrane a call. Someone told me there was a guy that knew about Twitter at AUT, and I'd been desperate to invite my students to play around on Twitter for a while, but didn't want to break any rules, so I thought I'd better get in touch with whoever at AUT knew about Twitter, and Tom was the guy they put me onto. And luckily Tom had a bunch of funding to start doing some research on engaging students with social media, so he got me involved with the ARCO project last year, and we did this poster, which I'll just kind of bring it up on my screen. You may or may not be able to see it, but it was entitled Mobilising Paramedic Education, which was supposed to be spelt with an S because that's how we spell it in New Zealand. But while I was on maternity leave, I decided to submit this poster, which we'd presented at the what was it called, NLPDF thing last year. I decided to submit it to a conference just to see if it would be accepted, and crazily enough an American conference did accept it. And I thought, oh God, I better actually alter this poster so that the Americans will understand it, because they spell everything differently and they do everything a lot differently. So I've been fiddling around with it for a while now, and I've had hopefully going to get some more input from Hugo and the rest of the team in paramedicine, and go to Chicago in about 3 weeks and present it to them.
So tell us what the SMAC conference actually is, Emily. Probably no one knows what SMAC is. It just sounds a bit naughty, actually.
It does. It was started by a bunch of doctors, I believe, who were really involved in social media and were passionate about sharing educational resources. They started something called FOAM, which stands for Free Open Access Medical Education, and their idea was just to be able to share anything they find or create to educate other doctors or nurses or medical professionals, share it internationally with anyone who's interested, to kind of create this this community of like-minded people who, you know, we're not trying to make a profit, we're not trying to, you know, there's no one-upmanship, there's no hierarchy, it's all equal access. So whether you're a medical student, whether you're a janitor, whether you're a bored housewife, you can access these amazing videos, podcasts, you know, lectures, anything that people think is relevant and current to their medical education. People can share by just searching the hashtag FOAM, F-O-A-M. And so it's grown and grown and grown over the last few years. And the guys that started this movement started a conference in Australia, and it was in, I believe, in Sydney the first time, a couple of thousand people. It was in the Gold Coast last year, a few more thousand people, and now it's just grown massive, and they're having it in Chicago. And I said, see if this poster gets accepted, and it did. And so now I'm gonna get involved with all these guys and hopefully get to collaborate with people that are just as keen on the whole concept as I am. One of the few little things, you know, we were doing when we worked in, when Hugo and I worked together in paramedicine, is we made this online 3-lead ECG course, to train paramedics to be able to interpret just a basic 3-lead ECG, and it was a interactive, easy little bite-size classes on interpreting 3-lead ECGs. And I remember my boss said, how much should we charge people to do this course? And he was asking me, honestly, my opinion, and I'm like, I get to decide how much to charge people? That's amazing. I'm just a lowly, employee of this company, and I get to decide how much it costs. And he's like, honestly, how much should we charge people? And I said, I think it should be free. And he was like, no, it's not going to be free. How are we going to make any money? We've got to, buy people iPads and iPhones, and we've got to fund our lavish lifestyle. So it's not going to be free. So we ended up charging people $75 for the course. And it has been quite successful, and we have raised enough money to buy a lot of staff members iPads. But deep down, it feels wrong to me that we're charging anyone anything for this. I think it should be free. And I know the university has to make money somehow, but I'm passionate about the concept of sharing educational resources for free. And that's what this conference is all about. People present at this conference for free, and yes, it costs money to go to it, but I'm sure a lot of people are being sponsored by their employer like I am. And just encouraging the movement of sharing up-to-date information that is peer-reviewed, because everyone's reviewing it online without the, the hierarchy of the scientific establishment getting in the way, sharing it for the right reasons with each other and making really good networks at the same time.
So Emily's on her iPad, so she can't show you the actual website. So what I thought I'd do is I'd just take over and do some screen sharing and show you the website. Just showing you there the AUT paramedicine team.
There's our sexy boys.
Yeah.
So we've got a sexy girl involved as well now. She's over there representing the female species.
Cool. So I'll just share my screen and show them the website for a sec, Emily, and you might want to just talk about it while I do that.
Yeah, some of the things we played around with in our team at AUT was YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. My passion was Twitter, so I tried to get some of the students involved with Twitter. Luke got students using YouTube to submit some of their clinical assessments rather than us all having to do massive long days of assessments where we had them in classrooms performing skills. We had them create little videos on YouTube and submit them online, and it really reduced a lot of the hard work of assessing students, and actually probably created a better learning opportunity for them to be able to spend hours making videos and really get to know how to do the skill by trying to create the best video they could. Hugo's corner of the project, he can probably talk about more, but it was more promoting Team AUT and making contacts with international counterparts to do these simulation competitions, and they've been able to compete in Australia, Czech Republic, and Baltimore, wasn't it? The boys went to Baltimore, so there's all kinds of opportunities now that are opening up because of the world of social media that we wouldn't have known about otherwise, and just being able to contact other like-minded professionals online and collaborate with them and find these great opportunities has been quite awesome.
Yeah, it's just pretty amazing to see how much social media is being taken on board, particularly by critical care. So SMAC, if people haven't cottoned on, is social media and critical care. And by going to the SMAC website, like we just had a quick look, and see there's so many apps that are available for paramedicine and different aspects of critical care. It's quite amazing. So anyway, let's hand over to Hugo. So I'm going to mute my microphone because Hugo's sitting right next to me, and get Hugo to talk about what he's been up to.
Good morning. Yes, as an extension of some of the stuff that Emily's been talking about, I have last year a group of lecturers, team of lecturers, went across to Australia in a international conference, Paramedics Australasia, and we took part in a simulation competition for clinical skills. And we came away having won it, which was a good feather in the cap. But from that, I decided to set up a Twitter page, set up a Facebook page on behalf of our team, and I've been trying to promote it and use it as a means for basically getting exchanges of ideas, but also making contacts, not just within New Zealand, but also internationally. And as Emily pointed out, it's been amazing so far how far the reach has gone. I'm getting feedback that the team are currently in the Czech Republic, and getting feedback from paramedics in Eastern Europe, and the UK, and also out in the Middle East. But from a student perspective, I'm wanting next semester to try and incorporate Twitter and Facebook as a means for discussing ideas. And although Twitter, because of its inherent limitations, I guess, in terms of the amount of characters, it's to have more like a group think tank in which students, as and when they find interesting pieces of information, can then tweet about sites, articles that they've come across, and thereby help the group in terms of learning and achieving success within assignments in the program. But from a technology point of view, one of the aspects that I struggled with, I guess, is having created a team page. The last two competitions, I've been unable to go, and I've stayed in New Zealand. So we've wanted to be able to keep the tweets going, but come from the team as opposed to specific individuals. And I'm pretty sure that only in the last year Twitter has announced or delivered, I think it's called TweetDeck, which is a very seamless application, so that I can invite other lecturers or anyone I like to tweet on behalf of Team AUT. But as far as the public are concerned, it's coming from one centralized voice, which I think is quite good. Something else Emily mentioned was our use of YouTube, and to help with tutorial skills demonstrations, whereby the students video themselves doing clinical skills and then upload them to YouTube, and then we as lecturers mark them. As a new concept, this has been very fruitful. It's cut down on the amount of time and the amount of resources that we need, but there have been some hiccups along the way, particularly students trying to upload videos to YouTube. And I'm still navigating my way through the technological aspects, because some students have claimed that they've had 6 to 8 hours worth of trying to upload their videos, which is if that's, I've got to investigate it further. But if that's the case, I need to think about another way to try and sort it out. But moving ahead, to almost borrow Emily's idea of presenting, I'm hoping to go across to the Student Paramedic Conference this September and give a similar presentation that Emily will give in Chicago. And obviously this one will have a very student-centric flavor to it. And I'll also hope to be taking with me a team of students, so they can take part in the simulation competitions as well. And that's it. That's it from paramedicine at the moment.
Cool. Thanks, Hugo. We've managed to get Amanda joining us. So Amanda's in public health on the North Shore. I was going to hand over to Amanda. Amanda, you can hear us okay? We seem to have lost Amanda.
She's frozen.
Yes. Okay, looks like Amanda's unfortunate connection has gone bad. We have Stewart, another one of the paramedics, who might want to add something to Hugo's report. So I'll just hand over to Stewart. Just need to unmute the microphone, Stewart.
Does that work? Cool. So, oh look, there's my face. Bloody hell. So one of the things that I'm, obviously my project, I'm quite interested in actually like capturing the raw experience of the paramedics or our new paramedics. So I take hemodynamics, and what I want to do is, with my project, is get them to make a, I don't think it's going to quite work with Vine. I think I'm going to have to adjust it slightly, but a 10-second, 6-second video of, excuse me, of basically their reaction after they put their first IV in, their reaction after they've done their first resus, and maybe their reaction after they've done their first deceased patient, or so forth, within my paper. And I just want to capture that raw sort of feeling initially, and then get them to reflect on that maybe a month later, and sort of see how that has developed their practice. Because, you know, I still remember the first IV I put in, I still remember the first resus I went to, and I still remember my first death. And I think it's something that we can use as a learning tool to develop, but also within the paper, get all these guys learning from each other, because we all learn from each other's experiences. So if we're able to capture that raw sort of emotion, I think that's really cool. And then also, so I've spoken to a couple of my students that I'll have next semester about that, and a couple of them are, funnily enough, already doing it. Like, one of my students has shown me it was about a 20-second video of his reaction as he walked into home after his first shift that he had a dead patient on. And it's a 20-second video of him just telling us how he feels, what he was thinking, what it was like, and I think it's really cool. And I think there's some legs there to sort of see where it goes. So that's kind of where I'm going with my project.
Cool. Thank you, Stuart.
Cool.
It's great to have you on board. So if you want to mute your microphone, thank you. Well, I've managed to get Amanda in, and Amanda's on her iPad, which is kind of interesting that it works on the iPad, but her PC didn't really work. So one up for mobile. So I'm going to hand over to Amanda now. Amanda's going to talk a bit about what she's been doing with public health. Are you there, Amanda? We seem to have lost you again. I think she's experiencing connection issues, so she was actually using her phone as a hotspot. Okay, we've lost her. Well, are there any questions at this point from, we've got James from Unitech, Catherine from EIT.
I've got a question for Stuart. I think that sounds really interesting, what you guys are going to be up to. I'm just imagining, because I've talked to some of our nursing staff about this before, so have you got some protocols around how, whether there's sort of a no-go zone for students using their mobile devices in and around what they're doing, obviously when they're out there with IVs and so on? There must be some, I'm sure you've got some rules around, you know, obviously they're not pulling out their phone in the middle of doing it. So how do you manage that?
So, sorry, I probably didn't make that quite clear. I don't really want their cell phones on the job showing them where to go in, or you know, photographing dead people or anything like that, because I totally think that's irresponsible and unprofessional, and also ethically got all sorts of issues. My sort of thought process is more about like what one of my students did, which was when he got home, he talked about the experience of that job, and he did a really good job of making sure that he didn't disclose any sort of patient privacy issues in the sense of, I think he spoke about the age and it was a male, and that was really it. And so, yeah, definitely, I don't want cell phones out of the job, and we've got to protect our patient privacies. I haven't thought about it properly, but I know that it's an issue, if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. No, it's just interesting that the students are sort of taken it upon themselves to do it. So I guess that highlights that that's going to be quite important, clarifying that sort of thing to them prior to them going out there. Interesting area to deal with.
Totally, yeah. And I mean, we still had, we've had a little bit of some problems earlier this year with some students putting inappropriate photos of either patients or jobs up on the internet, and yeah, we've had some conversations with them about it.
Yeah, I can imagine that being quite a big deal for many different disciplines now. So I guess it'd be interesting to see the different approaches that lecturers take to protecting that.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah, if I can just chip in, I think that the whole world of privacy issues around social media is very interesting. I mean, we live thankfully in a country that embodies freedom of speech, but then just how free is it if we essentially are not allowing people to express some things? And again, with the technology, there's a huge amount of learning as an educational tool. There's a huge amount that we could do as a sort of on the job as a live exercise, and nursing would be the same. For example, using things like GoPro cameras as you're going into houses, but then that creates a whole raft of ethical legal problems that I doubt we'll ever be able to iron out satisfactorily. We'd love to be able to, personally, I'd love to be able to use it, but I think there's probably more problems that it flags up.
Well, I think we are pioneers in the industry by even contemplating bringing mobile technology into our field, because I know paramedicine, is more open-minded about it. I know midwives are completely banned from having any sort of social media presence at all. I think paramedics are lucky in the fact that historically they've always taken photos of a mechanism of injury to be able to show to the trauma team when they arrive at the hospital, and that's been an accepted way of sharing information, and it's obviously for the benefit of the patient. So as long as we always come back to is this all about me showing off, or is this about saving lives, is this about helping the patient, then we know we're doing it for the right reasons. I know with the student nurses, I taught a CPR class, and I wanted them all to download the St. John CPR app before they came to class. And when they got to class, they were all in the class showing me that they had the app, and their paper leader came in and told them all off. I've told you you're not allowed your phones in class. And I realized we were on totally different pages, and it's just a mindset change that you've got to get past some of the old school lecturers, that mobile phones are actually to do with education, not just to do with gossip, and we're not all tweeting celebrity snapshots. It's actually education here.
Yeah, we definitely get that in every discipline, I think, that resistance from certain parties.
Can I ask a question just to follow up on Stewart's? Because that's a good talking about in terms of the information that's going in. But I was also wondering about the students and how they feel about recording something that's probably going to be quite personal. What are you doing with the recordings? Is it going to be widely available, or is it going to be just within the classroom? I know social media is supposed to be social, but have you thought about that?
Yeah, so obviously at the moment with our video OSCEs, they are allowed to obviously put them on YouTube themselves, or they can hide it. It's up to them. And my thought process would be shared within the class, and then sort of, excuse me, then kind of see. I mean, I think video blogging is becoming more and more important, and people, everyone's got a story, everyone's got, you know, their take on things. As long as we're protecting patient privacy, I don't necessarily see a problem with saying, you know, hey, I went to my first death before and I found it really difficult. I mean, some of our students aren't going to want to talk about it, but some of them are. And, you know, we've all had death in our family. You know, I lost my son last year. I'm quite happy to talk about it, you know, and quite happy to tell my experience and what it was like for me, you know, and the experience of the midwives, and how I related to them when, you know, my son Charlie came out and he died at birth. So I think it's very personal, and some people will learn from it and some people won't, and some people will think it'll be too much, but I still think it's a really powerful medium for your own personal reflection, and that's really probably where I'm trying to come from. Like, I don't necessarily want these guys, you know, jumping online and going, yeah, he went to my first death before, today. But what I do want to see them doing is saying, this is how it's affected me. This is what I learned from it. This is what I took from it. It's not necessarily about, yay, I went to my first death. It's more about, this is what I learned, this is what I do differently. Because we have to be able to reflect critically, I think, in medicine, on what we did right, what we did wrong, and what we should be doing better. I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
I think you're onto something really good there, Stu, and I think the luckily with the hemodynamics paper, with having started their first IV, that's probably a really good area to start with, because it's less controversial, and you could have them share those much more easily without opening cans of worms. And all of them have to start IVs to pass the paper, so that's a really good one to get them all doing and not freak them out too much.
Cool. Well, I think we're going to have to end our broadcast there because we're really past our half an hour. But it's really great to see some of those issues that people are working through, which are really, really important. And thanks, James, for the question, and Catherine. And don't forget that you can keep on asking questions using the Google+, or even just email people about what they're up to. So we'll hopefully get Amanda to do a bit of a report. She'll probably get her to record a video and post that to Google+. Ross has done one, so he's posted that to Vimeo, and the link is on the Google+. And Ben is away sick, so Ben will be posting an update into Google+ soon as well. So thank you, everyone. Good to see you, and we'll catch up next week. See ya.
Bye.